This is a book about the real Romanov sisters. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians 13:13. Prologue. The room of the first and last door. The day they sent the Romanovs away, the Alexandra palace became forlorn and forgotten, a palace of ghosts. The family had spent the previous 3 days frantically packing for their departure, having been informed at short notice by Kerensky's provisional government of their imminent removal. But when it came to the final moments, although the children took their 3 dogs with them, the cats, Zubovka, the stray rescued by Alexei at Army HQ, and her 2 kittens, had to be left behind, with a plaintive request from the Tsarevich asking that someone take care of them. Later, when Maria Geringer, the Tsaritsa's senior lady-in-waiting, charged with caretaking the palace after their departure, arrived, the hungry creatures emerged like wraiths from the shadows and hurled themselves at her, wailing for attention. But all 40 doors of the rooms inside had been sealed. The palace kitchens were closed. Everything was locked. Only the cats remained in a deserted Alexandra park, the last remnants of a family now heading hundreds of miles east into Siberia. In the years that followed the Russian Revolution of 1917, anyone curious about where Russia's last imperial family had lived could travel the 15 miles, 24 kilometers, from the former capital to take a look. You could get there either on a grubby suburban train or, avoiding the many potholes, by car along the old royal road that led straight as a ribbon, across the plain of low flat fields and woodland to Tsarskoye Selo, the Tsar's village. Once considered the Russian equivalent of Versailles, in the dying days of the Tsarist Empire, Tsarskoye Selo had acquired an increasingly melancholic air, a kind of tristesse impériale, as one former resident expressed it. By 1917, almost 300 years since Catherine the Great had first commissioned its construction, this village of the Tsars was already anticipating its own imminent demise. The Soviets were indeed quick to strip Tsarskoye Selo of its imperial links, renaming it Detskoye Selo, the children's village. Located on higher ground away from the marshy Gulf of Finland, its unpolluted air and orderly grid of wide boulevards surrounded by parkland was considered the perfect place for vigorous exercise. The Alexandra Park was transformed into a centre for sport and recreation that would breed healthy young citizens for the new communist order. Communism took a while, however, to make its mark on the town itself, which was still small, neat, and mainly wooden. Beyond its modest market square, avenues of grand summer villas, built there by aristocrats who served the court, surrounded the 2 imperial palaces. Their once legendary occupants, the now vanished great Russian families of the Baryatinskys, Shuvalovs, Yusupovs, Kodshupets, were long gone, their homes requisitioned by the Soviets, and already crumbling with neglect and decay. The focal point of this pleasant and peaceful little town had until the Revolution been the elegant golden-yellow Alexandra Palace with its white Corinthian columns, but in previous centuries the even grander Catherine Palace next door, in all its gilded Baroque splendour, had held centre stage. But in 1918, both were nationalised, transformed into object lessons in The Aesthetic Decay of the Last of the Romanovs. In June, the state rooms located on the ground floor of the Alexandra Palace were opened to the public, after a careful inventory had been made of all their contents. People paid their 15 kopecks to enter and gawp, not at what they had anticipated would be the lavish style in which their former Tsar had lived, but rather in disbelief that such a homespun environment could have been the residence of the last Tsar of all the Russias. The interiors were unexpectedly modest by former imperial standards, no grander perhaps than those of a public library or